Handmade, and in the previous video I showed you the challenge of my studio bookshelves and the task of how I plan to KonMari or get them tidy and organized. I'm working with a consultant out of California named Trisha Fiddler, and she and I are doing video sort of meetups to so that I can give her a tour of my studio and sort of show her my challenges. And my first assignment was studio clothing, which is like aprons, sweaters, because I'm in the basement and it's freezing cold here all the time. That didn't take very long, but now I'll show you the result of the first big assignment, which was my bookshelves. So as I mentioned in the previous video, these floor-to-ceiling bookshelves in my studio, we built them in, and they house about 90% of the family's books. The kids have books in their rooms. We have some pretty books on coffee tables upstairs. I tend to keep a stack by my bed, but this is the majority of them. And when I started, all of these were floor to ceiling. So these were all filled with books. And so in true KonMari fashion, I pulled every book out. I gathered books from upstairs. I had them here on the floor, and I went through them making decisions about do I want to keep them, are these important to us going forward, does it spark joy? It's become a cliche to say that, but it really is something that I thought about a lot. And what's interesting to me is that Trisha sort of directed me to keep with confidence. This method is not about like purging every single thing that you own and just keeping like a few things. It really is about going through your possessions, thinking about what you have, thinking about how you use it, and thinking about what it brings into your life or doesn't bring into your life, and deciding at that point if it's something that you want to carry with you into your future or if it's something that you can pass on. And so I did that with my books. I think that it's really not advised that you go through every book because you can get sidetracked or distracted, and so I really tried to stick to that. The only time I didn't stick to that was if it was a vintage book or some sort of older craft book that I had brought in or acquired for some reason. And those I needed to look at a little bit deeper. And I'll show you an example of one of those. Let's see. Like this one here, this might work. This is a needlepoint Bargello book. This book I bought recently at a thrift store, and I'm intrigued by a lot of the images inside of it. I don't know how this would inspire my work, but in the end, I had looked through it and decided, you know what, I'm just going to keep it. So I feel like this satisfies the whole keeping with confidence thing. It's like I know that there's something intriguing about this book. I may change my mind a year from now, and that's the beauty of the system. If I finish using it, I can pass it on with confidence as well. So that is just an example of the sort of things that I looked at. So I took 3 carloads of books in boxes and stacks and all sorts of things to my donation center. And it was funny because we are covered in snow right now in Seattle, and so I was super motivated to finish this project and get these things, these books, taken to the donation center before I got snowed in, because I was engulfed in stacks of books, and I just felt so just sort of frenetic and like I didn't have a clear place to think. So the impending snowstorm really moved this project along, and we are right now covered in snow and ice. I think there's probably 8 inches, 9 inches outside. But this is the result. I have gone from having every single shelf filled with books floor to ceiling to actually having room on a couple of shelves to bring in some collections that inspire me. So for example, this is my Namaji pottery collection, and this has always lived upstairs, although I don't really think it fit in the decor upstairs. So now I can bring it down here. And what's interesting is my daughter made the comment that the colors in that pottery sort of remind her of my quilts. So there you go. I didn't realize that until she showed it to me. So my husband's books, my quilt books still take up quite a bit of space, but that's okay because they take up a lot less space than they did when I started. And plus, I kind of now know what's in the stack. I know how to get inspired by looking for a book, and I know where the book is. This is not pretty, but this for now is my batting that I use in my quilt. So the good thing about having it here is that it's kind of out of the traffic of the studio, and it's also covered in plastic so that it doesn't get a lot of lint and cat hair and things like that on it. I purchased these boxes from the Container Store. I measured the depth and the size of the shelves, and so this box here keeps things like the bases for my handmade pin cushions and things like that nice and out of the way of our cat. And right now this one holds some of my smaller quilts. All of my quilts live on IKEA rolling racks that are pushed up against this wall here in the studio. I fold them front inward just to kind of keep them clean. And normally I have a dust, just a painter's drop cloth over them just to protect them from dust. I just gathered them together for a lecture and then hung them back up, so I haven't recovered them yet. So the books that I have on the shelves behind them are ones that we will not use quite as much because they are kind of buried back there. But within easy enough reach, we just move the racks forward and we can grab what we need. An example of one thing that I kept that I just wasn't sure if I was going to use or not, this knitting machine. So I was gifted this knitting machine, and I've never used it. So I came very close to getting rid of it. I could sell it. As far as I can tell, it's never really been used very much. It's in great condition. However, I think it's something that I might want to learn how to do. And my reasoning was, if I was going to learn how to, or if I had the opportunity to learn how to do this, which I actually might have the opportunity to learn how to do it, I wasn't going to have easy access to a knitting machine like that again. So I decided, even though there's no great place to put it, I decided to keep it for now. So it's nicely sealed up. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to get knocked and things like that. So that's an example of keeping with confidence. I gave it some attention. I thought about whether or not I wanted to keep it and the pros and cons to keeping it. And in the end, I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep it. So that's the result of my bookshelves. I will meet online with Trisha tomorrow. We're going to talk about what my next assignment is. I really think that I could definitely do this process myself, but I love having accountability. Trisha and I can text her, I can Instagram message her if I have questions, if I have concerns, and she allows me to ask a lot of panicky questions and things like that. So I highly recommend, if you feel like this is a process that you want to go through and you don't know how to start, or you don't know if you would actually follow through, maybe look at a consultant, because it so far is keeping me on track, and I'm excited to have feedback from someone like Trisha. And honestly, in my studio, this is going to be a process. This is not going to be something, if you saw what's behind the camera right now, you would laugh, because it is a mess. But with every section that we tackle in the KonMari process, we'll clean everything out little by little. So it won't be like extreme chaos, complete upside down turn of the studio all at one time. We'll take it in stages. So I will be sure and share with you what happens next. If you have questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do it. But until next time, I will see you then.